songs and monologues performed in the Two for Free podcast with Phil and Gary are copyrighted material. We are presenting them strictly for educational purposes.
We ask that you support the original artist by downloading the songs in their entirety and acquiring their sheet music through reputable sources. Links and info are in the description.
You're listening to the Two for Free podcast, the podcast taking you from the audition room to the stage.
This is the podcast all about auditioning.
I'm Phil.
And I'm Garrett.
This is episode 4.
Hey Phil, the other day I was watching The Joker. Have you seen that movie yet?
I have not seen the Joker movie yet.
Well, the way that it kind of depicted New York City made me miss the city itself a little bit.
Okay.
It's a fictional city of Gotham, but they based a lot of the scenery and a lot of the scenes from New York. So there's a very New York-y feel.
So this movie just kind of made you miss the city, as it were.
Yeah, and I was hoping that we could take a break from our normal scheduled program to kind of talk a little bit about New York City and auditioning in the city.
Okay, awesome, man. So I guess for people who didn't know that you did go to New York, you lived there for a couple of years, and you hit the audition circuit for pretty much musical theater.
Yeah, that's correct.
But what got you to that point?
Well, I started as a technician backstage, and then I worked into the ensemble. Then I became a principal, and then started getting leading roles. I worked from the bottom up, and I loved everything about theater. I loved the process. I loved, the collaboration between each and every department, and how each piece had their own job, and together they created this amazing experience for the audience and for those who are involved in it. So I wanted to kind of see where that would take me as far as professional theater. I graduated from UH with a BA in theater, and I kind of wanted to apply my degree to something that was in the vein of that profession.
And just kind of describe for us what it's like. I mean, you're going from a small theater community in the middle of the Pacific where there's not a lot of interaction from people out of state unless they've moved there. Mm-hmm. And now all of a sudden you're in the frying pan, as it were. Yeah. You're in the big city with everybody. It was with theater training. It was maybe they have more theater training, less theater training. So what was that audition lifestyle like?
It's very different from community theater where people kind of do it as a hobby. This was people's life. I unfortunately had to work off and on, so I didn't go to as many auditions as I would have liked to have gone to, but it was a different feeling in the rooms, not knowing people in the rooms.
Okay.
As a kind of juxtaposed to where I was kind of later on, where I knew people after doing a couple of off-Broadway shows and going to auditions with people and meeting people there and seeing former castmates auditioning, and then we'd catch up and be like, hey, what part are you auditioning for this week, or what show are you going for this week? And it was nice to kind of have that community once again, but in the beginning it's really hard to kind of get your bearings whenever you go into a room. There's a lot of unspoken things that you aren't really taught, which is kind of what inspired me to start this podcast with you, to kind of help people make that transition from one stage to another.
Okay. Yeah. So let's kind of just break it down. So
for free.